Okay, we're all set. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. At this point, I would like to call the Cities Association of Santa Clara County's Legislative Action Committee meeting to order. Today is April 11th, and we are meeting in Sunnyvale's beautiful City Hall. Let's start with the roll call. Sally?
Okay. Ann Bybee? Sergio.
Sergio just walked in.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. J.R. Fruin?
Here.
Pete Daly? Is there any?
Nisa, I think Nisa stepped out to find him. If he is not here by the end of roll call, we'll count her.
I'll come back to Los Altos. Stanley Mock?
Present.
Rob Moore?
Here.
Carmen Montano? Or Evelyn Chua? Nope. Javid Elahi? Or Everett Wolsheimer? Okay. Mark Turner?
Here.
Pat Showalter?
Here?
Greer Stone? Okay. Peter Ortiz? Kathy Watanabe?
Here.
Tina Walia?
Here.
Alyssa Cisneros?
Here.
Great. With, I believe we have 9. Is that 9 or 10? We have 9, so we have quorum.
Okay, let's get started. We have on consent, we have one item that is to approve the minutes from LAC's meeting on March 14th. Do I have a motion or?
So
is it-
moved.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Can you please say your names when you move and
Oh, sure. Moved by Turner.
Second, Lopez.
Thank you. Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by Turner, second by Lopez.
Give
I
me a
will,
vote, please.
yeah, I'll call you by cities. Campbell?
Aye.
Cupertino?
Aye.
Los Altos? Okay. Los Altos Hills?
Aye.
Los Gatos?
Aye.
Morgan Hill?
Yes.
Mountain View?
Yes?
Santa Clara?
Yes.
Saratoga?
Yes.
Sunnyvale?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Chair, I still haven't marked Los Altos as present because I don't have official confirmation.
That's right, she is not in the room, so thank you. Okay, let's proceed to item number 2. And I'd like to mention this is where the real work of the LAC committee happens. We have bills for discussion, still early in the legislative process, but I believe to get our voices heard, it is helpful for us to weigh in now. And the goal is to get through a few of the bills tonight, recommend them to the board so that we can get their votes tonight at a 7 o'clock meeting so we can send out position letters. The LAC packet with bill numbers and summaries was sent out Monday evening. I do want to make a disclaimer here that there may have been some movement in the details since the summaries were sent, because this is that time of the year where committees are meeting. And in the interest of time, I will not be reading those summaries because they were sent out earlier. They were also included in the board packet. So if there are different members in LAC versus board. And as a reminder, we have Senator Josh Becker joining us virtually at 6:15 p.m. tonight. That's the third item on the agenda. So let's jump right in. Let's start with SB 1164 by Newman. It's on revenue and taxation. Very briefly, it permits property owners to claim an exemption from property tax reassessment for new ADU construction until 15 years have passed or when the property changes hands. It has been supported by California Apartment Association, City of Alameda, and the opposition is from California Assessors Association, California Special Districts Association, California State Association of Counties and the League of California Cities, aka Cal Cities. This bill passed the Senate Revenue and Taxation Committee yesterday. With that said, I hope you have had a chance to look at the Cal Cities letter of opposition on this one that was in the packet. And any thoughts, comments, discussion from members of LAC?
Yeah, I think part of, what we're considering here is just due to the lack of, the loss of potential property tax is where, we'd feel a little bit concerned about moving forward with that bill.
The city of Santa Clara just chooses not to not take any position on it due to it's not specifically addressed in our housing policy.
Okay, Sergio.
You said that the assessors are opposing it? What was
That's
the group that you mentioned?
That's right.
Is that a statewide group?
I went to the legislator online and there it says, I have not confirmed any of this, but it does say California Assessors Association.
Okay, this one was difficult for me to evaluate because I don't have a sense of the impact of one way or the other of what they're saying, and it may be that it ends up being very helpful and it's a relatively small amount to the cities. Even though it's difficult to have any loss of tax revenue, but it's just difficult to weigh what the impact is going to be of this.
Yeah, from Mountain View's point of view, we have very few development of ADUs, so I think that the impact to us would be, de minimis. On the other hand, would it be something that would encourage people to put in ADUs, and encourage affordable housing? So I think we're still in the watch category.
Okay.
Similar thoughts to the last two folks who spoke. I think that it's hard for me to understand exactly how much of an impact it's going to have. There's a letter from the League of Cities that says it's well intended, but it falls flat is the League of Cities position. And the way the bill is structured, I'm not seeing it have a grossly negative impact on a community like Los Gatos, but it could incentivize ADUs. I don't know that I would be in a support position yet. I think I'd like to monitor it and see how it evolves, because I think it's a little hard to tell.
Yeah, I'm gonna say very similarly. Sunnyvale has not weighed in on this too, but we're about to go through our budget process, and part of that is we get a really cool chart of where the property tax revenue comes from for the city of Sunnyvale. So when I was considering this bill, I went directly to that chart. How much of this what pie slice would be potentially impacted by this, just as I was evaluating it. And I have a hard time really seeing how it would make a massive difference. And Sunnyvale is unique, your city may be different, but a lot of our property tax comes from office and industrial and more newer builds, less of this reassessment piece. And especially considering how few ADUs get built relatively in a year, and also the strong desire to incentivize that in whatever way possible, something that Sunnyvale actively is seeking to do through policy all the time. Just passed a few new policies recently to make it easier and more accessible to people to build ADUs. So I just don't have enough information about this. Like, we have some opposition and support, but I imagine you're going to have a lot more groups weigh in on this as it goes through. So I'm not ready to take a position on it yet. But I'm also seeing, I'm not sure exactly what it would do to the bottom line, but also recognizing cities only get 30% of the total tax revenue collected from any one given source. So the counties, their opinion is going to matter to me as well, because they're also a recipient of this property tax revenue.
Thank you. Stan?
It's difficult to say. The city of Los Altos Hills has no opinion on this as of this day. However, my personal opinions are in favor of less taxation and not more. So I don't know if that would count in this discussion or not. And in addition, we'd have to have more details on it as well. I don't know how it's going to go at this point in time. So I would like to see it marinate for quite some time before we make a decision on it and bring it to council, my council.
Wonderful, thanks. JR?
Thank you. I will just, it sounds like there's no consensus to do anything with this particular bill other than perhaps watch it. What I will point out to everyone from having read it is that there is, that this would only apply to those ADUs where the applicant has signed an affidavit that the ADU will be used for actual rental housing and be put on the market for that purpose. So, if you're concerned about the situation where someone perhaps is skirting your local regulations in order to build an ADU for, say, a pool house or something of that nature, that would continue to garner a new assessment. So there is a very specific purpose behind this piece of legislation. And as you go back to your individual cities to consider what we do with this in the future, you might look to your general plan and your housing element or your draft housing element, if it hasn't yet been adopted, to see whether you've included a policy there or a strategy to improve new ADU construction. Most ADU construction that is going to be used as housing is being produced by homeowners. And certainly for them, if they've tapped their own equity in order to build that new home, having some relief from additional property tax could be extraordinarily valuable, because that new ADU may actually be responsible potentially for more property tax than the underlying home that they already own. So those are my thoughts on it at present.
Okay, thank you.
I'll also note, from having read the most recent committee report, that there is one city in support, no cities in opposition at the moment. The city of Alameda has supported this legislation.
Yeah, the California Apartment Association of, oh, you're right, and the city of Alameda. Okay. Thanks for that reminder, Gerald. Thanks.
And I just wanted to add that I think it's very possible with this one that it may ultimately be a small amount to the city, speaking for my city, but relatively large and making the difference for making one of these projects feasible. So that's something that I weigh. I just don't know if that is the case yet either.
Fair enough. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the next bill. As you are correctly pointed, there's no consensus, but for the record, I would like to add that it can make a difference to my city. We have a lot of ADUs, and I personally, in my city, the council doesn't weigh in, and for sure, Cities Association now being a separate JPA, it keeps my opinion, my vote here completely separate from the city of Saratoga's position. And I personally generally agree with what has been written in the League of California Cities letter, because it could impact property taxes. There is enough even with the current property taxes, with the new ADU construction in the last so many years, people are comfortable enough. This doesn't seem to be an impediment. Again, the keyword is seen.
Many people are under Proposition 13 currently and have very low tax bases, so that discourages them to use tax for ADUs, because I think it's like in some areas $1 million per ADU. And in that $1 million, we're talking about $11,000 just in that alone, versus the original property, which may have maybe 11,000 already taxation. It might be a $6 or $7 million property. That's what I was trying to say earlier. I wanted to put it in numbers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a good point. And it's 5:49. Carmen Montano has just joined us. Would you like to comment on SB 1164 or pretty much? Okay, we'll pass. In any case, the consensus is to wait and watch on that. So let's move on to the next one, which is AB 2814. This was presented last time by our local assembly member, Evan Lowe. And so I thought it would be good to add that, plus to our list today. This is about unlawful entry with the intent to commit package theft And this bill would make it a crime to enter the vicinity of a home with the intent to commit theft of any packages shipped through the mail or delivered by public or private carrier. Pretty much all cities in the county right now, I believe, from what I understand, that's what Evan said last time. Most cities are using they have heavy use of packages being delivered to their front doors. And that was his reason to work towards reducing crime. Let me read this very briefly. Opposed by Californians for Safety and Justice, Californians United for a Responsible Budget, Ella Baker Center for Human Rights, and Initiate Justice Action Oakland Privacy. This is what I could find online. Supported by, my God, I got like 20 plus lists of Police Officers Association, including California District Attorneys Association, California Police Chiefs Association, League of California Cities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very long list. So any thoughts on this one? I'm going to start with JR. He's the only attorney right now. JR, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable expansion of existing law, so I will leave it at that. I think some of the opposition is a little histrionic.
So would you be willing to support this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And that's exactly what Cal City's their letter has been. Other thoughts?
City of Santa Clara supports it as well because it fits within the public safety policy of the city.
Wonderful. Other supports?
Support.
Mark supports. Okay, Stan supports, Los Altos Hills, Mark Turner supports.
My city does not yet have a position, but looking at our legislative priorities, I'd be comfortable supporting. And if not, I personally support it. My city never puts it up.
Other thoughts? Rob Moore supports. Sunnyvale supports.
I'm inclined to support it.
Campbell supports. Milpita supports. Milpita supports. Shelley, I'm losing track of the notes. Are you jotting it for our board meeting? Milpita supports. Mountain View?
We haven't weighed in on this yet. I think the chances are we will support, but I think I'm gonna abstain from this one.
Okay. For Saratoga, I'd like to support. So how many supports do you have right now, Shelley? You know what? Hold on. We'll just do a vote anyway, which will tell us, which will confirm.
Can I ask a question before I go? Just because I wasn't here for the discussion, when this bill was presented. Would this apply to someone who doesn't actually enter a home or a dwelling and like steal something off the porch just because it's there in plain sight?
That's exactly what it's for.
Okay,
Sports theft.
okay. Great, just because the language that I read talked about entering a house or apartment, but.
It also
Okay.
talked about porch
Okay.
areas
great.
as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
it provides a definition of curtilage. Curtilage of a home is the area that usually immediately encompasses the house. The classical curtilage would be like your side yard, somewhere that you've already got fenced in. This one is designed to include your porch by expanding that definition.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, JR. Javed, we are on AB 2814, Evan Lowe's bill for the sports theft one. And pretty much the majority so far seems, we haven't taken a vote, majority seems to support that. Do you want to weigh in or just?
That sounds good.
Okay. Shelley, can we have a vote on that, please? Can't hear you, you're muted.
Sorry, there's like ambulances and police in the background. I didn't hear what Councilmember Elahi said when you asked him whether he supports or not.
He said he would support it, but we need to take a vote.
Right.
Because the
then-
last one was easy. Nobody was willing to, majority wasn't willing to go yes. So we didn't take a vote on this one. We will need to take a vote.
So will someone make a motion to, well, the motion would be to recommend to the board supporting AB 2814.
So moved.
Sorry, can you please say, oh, sorry, this is JR.
So we had Los Altos Hills first and then JR Cupertino second.
Sorry.
Sorry, JR, he raised his hand. Stand, speak
Oh,
louder,
sorry.
please.
That's fine.
Okay, motion to recommend that the board supports AB 2814, made by Mock, seconded by Fruin. I'll take a roll call vote. Campbell?
Aye.
Cupertino?
Aye.
Los Altos Hills?
Aye.
Los Gatos?
Aye.
Milpitas?
Aye.
Monte Sereno?
Aye.
Morgan Hill?
Yes.
Mountain View?
I'm gonna go ahead and support it, yes.
Okay.
I think it's
Santa Clara?
Yes.
Saratoga?
Yes,
Sunnyvale?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with 11 members.
okay, wonderful. Thank you. We move on to AB 1820 next. And this is by Chiavo, Housing Development Projects for Applications, Fees and Exactions. This bill would require local governments, upon determination that a housing project development application is complete, to produce the development proponent with an itemized list and total sum amount of all fees and exactions that will apply to the project. Initially, it was within 10 days of the determination of completeness transmitted to the applicant. So this is for a pre-application. Yesterday, it was passed in the assembly in the Housing and Community Development Committee. Cal Cities testified requesting amendments. They are saying oppose. Cal City says oppose unless amended. And already the change, once again, was made from 10 days requirement to 20 days requirement. This is a case of where early advocacy helps. That's the reason why I'm bringing these bills here early in the process with a lot of movement still happening. What Cal Cities recommended, I spoke to someone there today, 3 key changes: that it apply only to the standardized general fees, to request extending timeline to 45 days, and that these should be non-binding estimates on the prelim application for the simple reason that the changes happen during the course of an application's design, going from prelim to a final application. It could take weeks to months to years. And also during construction, things can change by the time construction, if it happens after a few years, just keeping it very high level. It has been supported by SPUR. SPUR is the sponsor of this bill. They're calling it a good government bill, which they believe it seeks to provide developers financial certainty and predictability. The argument in opposition is that, again, prelim stage and all of that I mentioned earlier, there is a large group of housing advocates, really large group of EMB, et cetera, housing advocates that are supporting this bill. It has been opposed by California Special Districts Association, opposed unless amended by California Association of Recreation and Park Districts, California State Association of Counties, League of California Cities, Rural County Representatives of California, Urban Counties of California. Okay, who wants to start on this?
I just think, with what Cal Cities is saying, and certainly we have that same concern that it just doesn't give us enough time. It's too short of a time to get locked into that. So we would feel strongly to oppose unless amended.
Other thoughts, JR?
I have mixed feelings on this one. I think that in general, the league's position is reasonable. I do think that 45 days is on the longer side for what they're asking for, but that may just be posturing in order to hope that the compromise is at 30.
Okay, and what about the non-binding and the, what was the third?
Also appropriate. I would hate for a city to wind up in a situation where it underestimates something and then winds up being hauled into court over a fee that it's debt claiming.
So, and what about applying to standardized general fees only? Because there are a lot of things that you can't even in a prelim application, you have no idea.
True. Again, I'm torn on that one and don't really have an opinion on it at this stage.
Okay. Javed?
I would also oppose this bill, basically. I think they need to do some more work on it. We can try to propose amendments and more amendments. But these developers are pretty smart people. They can read the bills, which are public. Everybody knows what the fees are for whatever they're applying for. And then just to have the city be bound by the initial estimate, I think is putting a little bit too much. So I mean, somewhere this might be an acceptable bill, but I think a lot more work needs to be done. And rather than trying to piecemeal amend this in 30 days and 45 days and not to the general permits and other things, I think at this point, I would just say we should oppose it.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I too feel that I would like to oppose it because it's tying our hands and there's so many unknowns. For example, the permit process, what if something happens, and it's just tying our hands. I would, and then who is it going to really benefit? Is it going to benefit the developers or the, so I would oppose this.
Santa Clara opposes it also, takes no action because it's not addressed in our housing legislative action policy.
So did I hear you oppose or
Correct.
oppose?
Yeah.
Okay. Pat?
Well, we have this on our watch list, and I would assume that the main reason is because our park fees are determined by the cost of the land pretty much when the project is done. So if you have a project that goes, I mean, this is something that's very controversial that we may have to change, we probably will have to change. We're expecting to change it, but that's how it's been for a long time. So if you have a project that goes on for 10 years, you don't know what the cost of that land is gonna be 10 years hence. I mean, it's not, so I think it's not ready for prime time yet.
So would you be opposing tonight?
Oppose unless amended.
Okay. Other thoughts, Stan?
Opposing, it's probably better to make things simpler than to make them more complicated.
Okay.
Far more complicated today, so might be simple to go the opposite way.
Yeah, and my city hasn't taken a position on this, but I just went and reviewed our legislative advocacy priorities to see if that would give me any significant guidance here, and our emphasis on the local control over these processes that we've discussed as a council being there. I would be comfortable going ahead and saying my city doesn't have a position on this, and so therefore Alyssa's position can go and take it, and I really see like where they're coming from on this, but the oppose unless amended is a totally reasonable position here, and I would be comfortable saying that that's in line with what my city my city council has decided is comfortable with advocacy, and I'd be comfortable doing that, even though we haven't taken a position yet. Although we're really kind of streamlined with our fees too, I don't think it would impact Sunnyvale too terribly much, but plain safe, I think what the league is asking isn't out of the realm of possibility there. Thanks.
Jose, similar thoughts. I think it's a well-intentioned bill. I like the idea of telling developers ahead of time what the fees are gonna be. And I do think it's important for cities not to be able to, we have all these SB 330 applications coming in, and there have been some folks who've been trying to adjust fees after getting locked in on those SB 330 fees, and I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think you should be able, the developer applied with the understanding that those were the fees. So I think it's well intentioned. So I could see us getting to a support if amended position, but I'm fine with the will of the body at this point. I think I do not think we should oppose it if these changes are made. I think it's a pretty reasonable bill on, in its intention.
Rob captures a lot of my statements. I actually, for the bulk of what this bill is intending to do, would be inclined to support. Because this is something that I don't think it's too much to ask to just be able to know upfront what the fees are gonna be. And so this is very much something that Campbell has been working to do and implement. And to do that kind of streamlining that, it sounds like maybe Sunnyvale is doing as well. But that said, I think the the other two portions, I do think the amendments are very reasonable. I think having it be non-binding so that cities act in good faith, but circumstances can always change. And so given that, I'm more personally inclined towards a supportive amended, but I think oppose unless amended is reasonable given those suggestions.
Thank you. Do we want to have a Los Altos member? No. Okay, so what I am hearing, some differences of with good basis, but the majority seems to be landing at opposed unless amended. So who wants to take a stab? If I heard correctly, JR was very clear. He wants 30 days, not 45 days. And I do recall the Cal Cities is probably going in that direction at some point, probably. I kind of heard somewhere. So, JR, do you want to make a motion or does someone else wants to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that let me pull up the bill number again so I get it correct.
Maybe 1820 and a recommendation to the board.
All right, so it would be a motion to recommend to the board that we oppose unless amended AB, you said it was 2810?
1820.
1820, excuse me. Modifying the measuring date to 30 days from 45.
30 from the current 20 in the bill. The bill is 20 right
Sorry,
now.
yes. Well, the oppose unless amended letter from Cal Cities, which I would propose that we effectively adopt, notes 45 days. So I would simply say that we adopt that same letter and just change the language to 30 days instead of 45.
30 days. And you also agree, just for clarity for the other persons here to vote, that it apply only to standardized general fees, and the third thing being non-binding estimates on prelim application.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Do I have a second? Second. Pat seconds it. I'm speaking a little louder, so I don't want Shally to somehow miss what's happening here.
Yeah, and please also say your name when you make a motion or second.
Yeah, so JR made the motion and Pat from Mountain View seconded the motion.
So motion to recommend to the Board of Directors that we oppose unless amended AB 1820 modifying the measuring date to 30 days. By Fruin, second by Showalter.
Yeah, there are two other parts to that motion, Shally. 30 days and only apply to standardized general fees. And the third amendment request is non-binding estimates on prelim application. I have that part I have written down here. So I can give you that later.
Okay, I'll get that from you later.
Yeah, that one I do have. If I have anything, I'll tell you. If not, I'm going to rely on you.
Okay. Campbell?
Okay, can we have the vote, please?
Campbell?
Aye.
Cupertino?
Aye.
Los Altos Hills?
Aye.
Los Gatos?
Aye.
Milpitas?
Aye.
Monte Sereno?
No,
Okay. Morgan Hill?
Yes.
Mountain View?
Yes.
Santa Clara?
Yes.
Saratoga?
Aye.
Sunnyvale?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes with 10 affirmative votes.
So only Montessorino is a no,
Correct.
correct? Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to AB 1886. That's another housing-related bill. It's by Alvarez. It's Housing Element Law, Substantial Compliance Housing Accountability Act. Very simply, yesterday it was passed in the Assembly Housing Committee and is now going to the Local Government Committee. Cal Cities also testified on this one. On this, they clearly opposed this bill. I'm going to quote what they said in one of the newsletters or something today, that this would end self-certification from the city's point of view, and it would encourage developers to pursue builders remedy projects because this is going to give more and complete control of the housing element certification to HCD. You have the summaries in the packet. And I think one of the key points, and one of the attorneys, JR or Javed, please help us if one of us needs that help, that it creates a rebuttable presumption of the validity of HCD's findings as to whether an adopted element or amendment complies with the housing law. This was the key part. Didn't get the legal part. It has been opposed currently by City of Corona, League of California Cities, and Livable California. There is a very long list of supporters. It has been sponsored by San Francisco Bay Area Planning and Urban Research Association, SPUR. California Building Industry Association is a co-sponsor of this one, and a lot of housing YIMBY groups are supporting this. In the interest of time, I am not going to read all the names, but there's a very large and long list of that. Any thoughts? Javed?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I guess the city has a little bit of leverage to just declare that their housing element is valid, and they don't have to, the builder's remedy may not be available. So this is trying to turn that around completely and say, no, you don't get to say it, that city gets to say it. And I think that's why the League of Cities is opposing it. And from our city's perspective, we have very limited control on what happens with the housing element. And I don't think we should give up that little control we have with basically this, if the housing HCD does not approve your elements after many attempts. You just make a declaration that we feel that our housing element is valid and go with that. So I would oppose it.
Okay.
So I have a very different perspective here from having watched what the courts are doing, both with the builder's remedy and with the doctrine of self-certification. HCD has taken what I think is probably an improper view of its own mandate, that cities are not certified until HCD says that they are certified. And the courts are already buying that proposition. Just 1 month ago, City of La Cañada Flint Ridge lost on exactly this issue. If the courts are headed in that direction anyway, this bill is actually much better for cities. A very typical situation for a lot of administrative review is that whatever the administrative agency provides you as a responsive document, let's say a patent that you might have gotten from the USPTO or a trademark that you might have gotten from the USPTO, would entitle you to walk into court with a presumption of the validity of that document. That is basically what this bill would provide. The city still has a leg to stand on in court. You have to overcome that rebuttable presumption. It's not that HCD is accorded massive deference, which is what the courts are doing right now. The one piece of this legislation that I think would be useful to see removed from it is simply its position on the builder's remedy itself. It basically says it would treat it the way that your eligibility for various grants would be treated at present, which is that if you don't have a certified housing element certified by HCD, then you are not eligible for various grants. The same thing would apply here to the builder's remedy. If you don't have the imprimatur of HCD, then the builder's remedy would apply to you. That is the one piece that I would advocate that we see removed. So I think it would be better for us to either take a supportive amended position or an opposed unless amended position, removing that one piece of the legislation. This bill is better for us than where the courts are headed. That's my basic point. And I think that the League of Cities is missing something here by not watching that trend in the courts.
Thank you. Yeah, similar thoughts to JR. He's going to say what I'm trying to say more intelligently, but I actually read the League of Cities, the California League of Cities summary on this as a bit biased, and I don't think this ends self-certification. I think it clarifies when you can self-certify and what self-certification means. And I think JR is correct that I think we have to draw a line here, right? I think there's a confusion and a lack of clarity about how the builder's remedy works in general. And I think this adds clarity where we don't have it right now. And I think it does it in a way that makes sense. I think there's another WIX bill, AB 1893, that is could be seen as an alternative to this bill that I think is a much more aggressive overhaul of the builder's remedy in that it decreases the amount of affordable units required and eliminates them for small developments. And so I think, all to say, I think the legislature is going to clarify the builder's remedy in this legislative cycle. And so I think JR's suggestion of a support if amended would make a lot of sense, because I think if we don't try to clarify the builder's remedy, we won't have, I think somebody's gonna clarify it and we should have a say here.
Okay. I can see Senator Becker has joined us. And-
Hello.
Hello, hello, Josh. I'm gonna put this on hold, this item right here. And at the end, we'll take a couple of minutes more on this, and this will be the last bill that we'll be able to discuss tonight. So with that, let's move on to item number 3. Senator, thank you for joining us. And I know he doesn't need an introduction. He's no stranger to us. We all know him very well. And yet I would like to introduce him very briefly. Josh Becker, our senator for California's 13th Senate District, comprising most of San Mateo County and the north part of Santa Clara County, was elected to the Senate in November 2020. He's a public policy innovator. He has worked with refugees in Guatemala in the early 1990s. He created, later on in 2000, he created Full Circle for community leadership and policy innovation, funding nonprofits in the Bay Area, building civic leaders. Just skimming through it, it'll take me 10 minutes to go through all of this. I'm not going to do that. He was appointed by Governor Jerry Brown. So 7 years on the California State Workforce Development Board, served on the Child Care Partnership Council in San Mateo County. He's long been a champion in pushing businesses to create social good, helped start a biotech company researching cancer cures, co-founded New Cycle Capital. He joined Lex Machina in 2011, bringing openness and transparency to the law, something most of the public officials really want to strive for. He also founded a legal tech accelerator later on. He has a JD MBA from Stanford University, which he got in 1999. He co-founded the Stanford Board Fellows program there. Oh boy, Josh, you're making this difficult. Lot of great work. 20-year resident of Menlo Park. He lives with his wife, his 2 children, and the family dog. And lastly, I do have to say this, he's a great champion for clean energy. That is my personal bias, being at SVCE, the current board chair, and I know Josh has been very, very helpful in that space. With that, welcome to the LAC committee. Thank you so much for making time for us, Senator Becker. And we would love to hear from you, where you are. We haven't gotten around to SB 1095, which is what I wanted to talk about as well tonight, but we didn't reach that point. So it's to you.
Excellent. Just tell me quickly, because I can't see everyone. Tell me quickly who's in the room.
Oh, okay. We have JR virtually attending from San Jose. He's Cupertino. Los Altos Hills, Stan Mock. Actually, why don't you just mention yourselves? Stan?
Stan Mock. Los Altos Hills.
Mark Turner, Morgan Hill.
Alyssa Cisneros, Sunnyvale.
Rob Moore, Los Gatos.
Sergio Lopez, Camel, great to see you.
Chinawalia Saratoga.
Hatcho Walter, Mountain View.
Kathy Watanabe, Santa Clara.
Carmen Montano, Milpitas.
Javed Elahi, Monteserino.
JR, please go ahead. I can't take that away from you.
Oh, J.R. Fruit, Cupertino.
That's it.
Excellent. Well, good. Excellent. Well, like Card, I'm actually at a retreat for the environmental voters. They do a retreat once a year where they bring together legislators for an offsite. So I'm out actually here in Berkeley on the Berkeley waterfront, which is very beautiful. But I really wanted to be there with all of you, so I appreciate you allowing me to zoom in. And Tina, it would be helpful if I just did a kind of, do you want sort of a 5-minute legislative update? Do you want some time for discussion? How do you want to
That would be
allocate this time?
perfect. That would be perfect if you can talk about some of the bills that you're working on, some of the what is it you are really striving to change for us right now? And then we can take
Sure.
questions.
Yeah, well, budget obviously is a big issue this year. We voted today on $17 billion in cuts, kind of early action cuts, which in addition to taking money from the reserves of around 14, 15 billion, that is obviously is around 23 or so. We'll find out, get an update soon on where the revenue's coming in, but the budget deficit is projected to be much larger, so there could be more significant cuts. But we wanted to take some early action cuts as well, which we did. And I obviously chair the budget subcommittee on climate and environment. We're trying to make sure we don't slow our progress, because we actually know we need to move faster. So that's a big priority. And there's a lot of stuff on the cutting chopping block, and a lot of stuff the governor shifted over to GGRF, which is our greenhouse gas reduction funds, the money that we get from our cap and trade system. And most of the things are at least tangentially related to climate, but a few of them aren't. And we also already fund things like high-speed rail and such out of that money. So I'd love to see that money better focused. So those are some of the priorities on the budget front. But bills like my bill from 2 years ago, which is called California Zero, to get our state government to net zero in 10 years, is currently funded in the budget. So hopefully that will continue to be implemented. But those are big discussions that will be going on for the next couple of months. On the legislative front, the Sacramento Bee had a great article. I can put it in the chat here about today, about one of my bills, and just paste it here, I think, because it has a great title, which is a California bill could lower home insurance. What does it say exactly? I have to tell you the exact title, because it was kind of fun. California bill could lead to lower home insurance costs. Here's why companies hate it. So I have a bill which basically, since I chair this committee, we discussed it today. We spent $3.7 billion alone just in treating forest lands, and we don't believe insurers are taking that into account in the underwriting models. This doesn't force the outcome; it just forces them to take all this work and then all the home hardening work that individuals are doing into account in their underwriting models. So you can check out that piece. I also had a fun piece yesterday that I can post in the chat as well. In the Athletic, I don't know if any of you are baseball fans, but it says California lawmaker seeks to close Shohei Ohtani tax loophole. It's a massive hidden ball trick. So those were kind of fun pieces last couple days. But the way he structured that content, he will avoid $90 million in taxes because he defers all the revenue, which is not what Congress intended. So this is really trying to rectify that. And it's being used by others as well. And this is not what that money was for. They meant to sort of defer if you had $25,000, $30,000 of pension earnings, that's what it was meant for. But now there's this sort of massive loophole. So those were a couple fun pieces recently. A lot of climate legislation, not surprisingly, which I'm happy to go through, including the Cozy Homes bill, and that's really to make sure that we can support our Bay Area Quality Management District. And thanks for those of you who serve on it or have served on it, so that we can reach our goals with our burnout ordinances and make sure that homeowner associations, can't block and make sure that mobile home parks can participate as well. You know, we've across the state, we have a million residents in mobile home parks. So very important they're able to participate in electrifying their homes. So those are a couple of bills. I have a lot of bills on AI this year. Transparency, make sure we know what things are created by AI. I have a working group on education with the superintendent, so we can really try to figure out and help teachers, you know, what are the positive uses of AI in the classroom, and if they, you know, are trying to keep, for example, kids from using it on papers, how would they even know, and what's out there? And so it's really this kind of whole work group approach there on that. I presented yesterday my physicians make decisions bill, making sure that physicians are making decisions about ultimately really about care, choosing care, not having insurance companies were using algorithms to just automatically reject billing requests for certain procedures. So those things have some justice. I have a bill that's a Juvenile Justice Modernization Act, and I'll continue to be active in the criminal justice space. And so it's going to be a busy year. But those are a few of the highlights. Jackie Spear came with me to a bill that's really around educating doctors and hospitals around how to look out for signs about sex trafficking. Texas has this, and we don't have this, and so that's another thing we'll be trying to work on this year. But you know, a lot of it's around my themes of economic mobility and then climate and social justice.
Thank you, Senator. That's a lot. I know you stay so busy. I witnessed to that. I was there a month ago for Cal CCA's lobby day, and we saw the senator was extremely busy, and yet he made time to meet us in person, which we did not have the privilege of being able to do with some of the other legislators. So once again, thank you for making time here today. We're going to take public comment, but I want to start with questions of the LAC members. Rob?
Thank you very much for being here, Senator Becker. I'm really glad you're working on AI. I think smart technocrats like you are the people that need to be working on AI. I think it's super important. I wanted to hear what your approach at kind of a high level has been to tackling AI, and how the legislature and the governor at large are thinking about it, and if it's, you know, if those things are in line, because I've been, you know, looking at your bills and they seem really thoughtful. I think there's a lot, you know, especially around elections, that needs to get changed with AI, but is the legislature kind of in agreement with you, or where do you think the AI bills are going to end up?
Well, we'll see. The industry, some of my friends, you know, they've been, you know, pretty good at killing stuff they didn't like the last few, you know, really across the country, the last, you know, 10 to 20 years. I mean, and some of these maybe they're you know, they're personally or whatever from business perspective we're okay with than others, but so we'll see what happens with these bills. So there's about 35 bills that have been introduced, so it shows you that there's certainly a lot of interest from the legislature in getting these done, and they take slightly different approaches, and you know, can tackle, like, you know, some of our things around education, health, and then generally transparency, right? So we're trying to give some people a sense of was something created by AI. So that's, you know, been my focus, but, you know, I'll be supporting some other bills around Senator Wiener's bill around really more of a public compute resource. There's bills looking at a little bit about more transparency into the models of some of these companies. So there's a lot of different angles at this, but that's sort of what I'm doing, and it's going to be an interesting year on that and many other issues. By the way, seeing you, Rob, reminds me of 1395, which are my top priorities, which is around interim modular housing. You know, we've done a lot, you know, I think the last few years towards our homelessness strategy. Our broader homelessness strategy. But the fact remains that, you know, in California, 67% of our homeless population is unsheltered. Nationally, that's 20%. In New York, for example, it's 5%. And partly that's because, you know, obviously it's colder there, but they've also invested in other resources that we haven't. And so how can California handle this while we're building as much permanent housing as we can build? And I know we'll all be working on BAFA this fall to get $20 billion, hopefully, for affordable housing, which is going to be critical. But we know now that we can scale up these modular structures that are high quality. We can build communities with lots of services that people are very happy with, that have fantastic transition rates to jobs and to permanent housing. So that's a big priority of mine, 1395, as well, that I wanted to mention.
It's super exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wondered if you talk a little bit about climate. You mentioned that as one of your goals, and that's a big topic. So what in particular are you focusing on this year? We're all worried about it.
Sure.
Because of
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, I mean, it's, you know, we don't for sure the time to go because there's so many, you know, as we know, it's not one thing, and I've tried to tackle all the big sources of emissions from transportation, 50%, buildings, 15%, our grid is, which is about 14%, and then industrial, agriculture, you know, all the different sources. One of the big things is our PUC has kind of gone astray a little bit, unfortunately, and we all know about the ruling on rooftop solar for residential, but they actually came out with a really damaging ruling that takes away the incentive of schools, apartment buildings, small businesses, farms, to put on solar, because it eliminates their ability to self-consume. At least when they did residential solar, is they said, hey, we're going to really cut in energy metering, but we'll give you incentives to self-consume with batteries. And we've taken that away. So I have, we're going to do an op-ed with Oakland, with one of the most liberal school districts in the country, and Clovis, one of the most conservative school districts in the country, together in support of my bill. But it faces a lot of opposition from utilities. This is 1374. So this would really restore the ability of schools, for example, to self-consume, or Sunnyvale City Hall, if you put solar on there and you also want to use it to power your neighbor, you know, the attached police station or other things, you'd be able to do that, which now they've taken away, unfortunately, the incentives to do that. So that's a big one this year that I'll mention, but a number of other pieces as well, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Always a pleasure to hear from you. I had one that was a quick follow-up to Rob's question, and then one about a different area. I'm wondering if you could say more with AI about how you've been engaging with the tech industry on that, and what their feedback has been like, because I know it's something that you're incredibly thoughtful about, how to move forward, you know, protect the public, but also protect innovation. So just some of that's looked like, just kind of generally. And then I wonder if you can say a bit more about your juvenile justice reform bill. Really interested in hearing about that.
Yeah, you know, we are engaging with the industry, and for example, on the transparency piece, you know, Meta said, hey, we're doing, you know, here's what we're doing. And so we're, you know, immediately called them, and, you know, as you know, I think, you know, I was on the Good Morning America on GMA3 talking about this, and they were like earlier, a couple of days before. So I called them right before I went on and said, hey, tell me about what you're doing. So, you know, there is an industry standard that is that the industry is promoting around transparency. So we're looking at that standard as well. There's groups like, you know, Adobe locally that I think is really trying to do a great job, and we're in conversations with them. So really, as much as we can, anyone who will talk to us, we're engaging with. In terms of the second question, the juvenile justice modernization bill, I'm happy to go through it. It's really about 10 kind of, I'd say, call them smaller fixes, but really kind of common sense fixes that needed to be done. And I'm happy to go through them and send it with you. But it's just really a series of things that are kind of folded into this modernization bill, and I'm happy to share that with you.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to open the public comment period.
Yeah, and then I need to go soon, because I did this for like 15 minutes because
Okay.
I'm here, Ben, actually need to
Okay.
go, but yeah, I'm happy to,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Two more minutes. Public comment?
Okay.
No? Very quickly, Suds.
Hi, Josh. This is Suds Jane.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing? CAISO's really screwed up because of the clusters. Are you doing anything about resolving the bottleneck in approving projects through CAISO?
Yeah, quite involved. I mean, my bill 887 from a couple of years ago forced this coordination between PUC and CAISO, and it the lack of coordination shows itself in various really negative ways, including it allows peaker plants to keep going because they we won't get all the details, but basically because PUC considers them in their forecast, then CAISO has to assume that they're going to be there, and so mine really pushes for 15-year coordination between planning between PUC and CAISO, and did a lot of stuff last year, very active on transmission, streamlining, and all of that. So there's a couple different interconnection queues. There's an interconnection queue locally, which I'm sure is frustrating to many of your constituents, whether they electrify their home or, the wait being a year and a half to put in new high capacity charging stations. So I covered that last year with 410 that passed, and but there's still the issue of CAISO sort of bottlenecks, but they have, partly because of 887, they've approved a lot more transmission in the last couple of years, but it's still a big issue. Some stuff we can deal with through the legislature, some stuff we have to just try to urge them on.
Thank you, Josh. I close public comment. Josh, do you have a moment to take Kathy's question from Santa Clara? She's on the LAC. Very
Sure.
quick.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll make it quick. Thank you, Josh. So, are you hearing anything about insurers failing to renew homeowners policies in the Santa Rosa or the Bay Area, and any legislation that's being put forth to protect homeowners against this?
Well, there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, we hear it all the time from people, and a lot of insurers very publicly have said, "Hey, we're not doing new policies, or we're leaving the state." It's a number of things. I mean, when we created this office of the insurance commissioner, it's there to protect ratepayers. But when you have a public elected insurance commissioner, they don't want to necessarily, and not just this current one, and the past ones too, they don't want to raise rates because then they don't get reelected. And so, frankly, we haven't let them raise rates in some ways that they need to. We haven't allowed them to use forward-looking models. So there's some things that we haven't let them do that, he's working on a package of things. So like, okay, we're going to rectify some of that. In return, you have to have insurers cover 85% of people in the state. Right now, the resource, if you don't get coverage, is the FAIR plan, and the FAIR plan is paid for by insurers, by the way, which encourages more insurers to leave. And that's about up to about 30% of people in the state are now covered by the state-run FAIR plan. So there's a lot of huge issues around this. Again, you can see my bill today that says that the insurance companies hate it, but it'll force them to take into account all these massive investments. I mean, a lot of this is wildfire risk, and we're really doing a tremendous amount to mitigate wildfire risk. And we've actually had the same number or more fires in 22 and 2023 than we did in 21. They just burned, instead of 2.5 million acres, we burned 323,000 acres. And partly that we had some better weather conditions, but a lot of that was actually our strategy now starting to work. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount going on in this area. I am having a town hall participating in Hillsborough on the 25th of April. So anyone who wants to sort of, tune into that as well. But very complicated area, but we're working hard on it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. Can someone send us that bill number? Maybe Alex can text it and I can share it with the LAC members, the bill that you mentioned just now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did put the article in the chat from the Sacramento Bee today as well.
Did one of you
I
get
got
that? Okay, great. Thanks.
Let me know who you want me.
Yeah, if you can send it to Shally, then
Yeah.
Shally will share it with.
I got it. I have it, Chair Walia.
You have it. Thanks, Charlie. Everybody's, few people are remote, so that's why I'm juggling this to make sure. Senator, thank you so much for making the time to come and join us. It's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for your service supporting.
Well,
all
thank
the
you, Chair, and thank you to what you all are doing, and look forward to continuing to engage individually just more on what's going on in your cities, your communities. But very nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for all your help. Have a nice.
Great.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, with that, the LAC committee, we are moving back to item number 2. We'll just wrap up where we were.
We technically need to take vote.
I already did.
Okay.
So it's, Lisa said down. On item 3, I did. I did not. I'm going to do it now. So, back to item number 2 on AB 1886, just to quickly recap, Javed, this is the housing element, what's it called? Housing element law, substantial compliance, Housing Accountability Act 1. And Javed had said he would like to oppose this because this takes away the little control cities have. GR's perspective was somewhat different. He had said oppose unless amended. Rob Moore was in agreement, generally speaking, with JR. You also mentioned AB 1893. I'll take a peek at that. It did get flagged, but by the time the agenda was out. So I'll keep that in mind for the April meeting.
And I think JR and I were supportive of it.
Yes, that's support or oppose unless amended. Yeah, one of those. So let's hear other comments on that very quickly. Sergio.
GR captured a lot of what I was thinking, which is that risk is very expensive, and in the current situation, or I'll say uncertainty and risk. And in the current situation, there's a lot of that, and cities don't have good recourse. I'm probably personally, if there's a vote, inclined to abstain on this one because it wouldn't apply to Campbell. And so, but I don't necessarily think it's fair to impose something that may not affect us on others. So I'd probably sit this one out, but I did just want to put out that the status quo, I think, is dangerous for cities.
Thank you. I really appreciate the discussion here. I hope you understand, in the interest of time, I'm trying to just rush through this as much as I can. Other thoughts?
Yeah, just to be super brief, JR covered a lot of what I had been thinking too. I'd been having discussions about with a couple people about this bill, and the fact of where the courts are going is really my main concern there for when there are substantial, there's opportunities to challenge against Sunnyvale certified. And we're very interested in figuring out ways to make the housing element process better, because what's happening right now is not working. That's true. But this, opposing this bill, which to me, I'm like, okay, this, for those reasons, it's not substantially taking away self-certification. It's not doing too much more than clarifying where things are in honestly, a moderate way. I would be comfortable to support if amended position as well. And the reason why I would say support rather than oppose is by saying this is in the right direction, but it's not quite where it needs to be regarding the builder's remedy, rather than we really don't like this for that reason. And I think that almost strengthens us because it'll be an unexpected position and give us more leverage in that conversation to say, no, we're willing to go ahead and do something that you may not expect we're going to do, but we're going to want this particular thing. Otherwise, we're just in the noise with the factions,
Thanks. Other thoughts? Mark?
I'm in the opposed category.
Stan?
I think that less control for HCD is better. So, and the reason why is because if we have more control given to them in some fashion, then at some point our cities won't have any control, and builders remedy becomes a really huge problem. So I don't know how to solve the problem. I think that this is probably not the final solution to the issue.
Thank you. Your concern is lack of local control. I hear you. Thanks.
Yeah, same here for Santa Clara, opposed for that very same reason.
Okay. Carmen?
I'm going to oppose, usually the League of Cities, they do a really good job in their research, and they have their legal team doing a lot of analysis. And another reason I want to oppose this, they don't really address HCD though. I mean, I think they, that none of these bills address, they have, in my opinion, they have too much power and somebody needs to reel them in. So I'm opposing to this bill.
Um, I think that I can go along with what JR had to say. I'm concerned about where this is going in the sports. But it's a watch for Mountain View. We don't really have a position on this yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
if I might interject, Tina?
Jer, just one sec. Javed had his hand raised earlier.
Sure.
Javed and then you.
I mean, I think it's just going in the wrong direction. We want to curtail HCD's power. This gives HCD even more power. The courts are kind of interesting. I mean, the courts sometimes look at a piece of legislation, and if it's, I guess maybe it's not confusing to them, but then they see another law coming out to make it clear, then the courts might actually say that the previous law was unclear, so what the cities are doing may be okay. And it's because the legislature felt it necessary to clarify it. So the court may actually, just having this piece of legislature, attempted legislation being done might be enough for the court to say, maybe they actually didn't have that power. So I would oppose it, and I would like to convey to the legislature that the cities really want less HCD presumptions and less HCD power of these things.
Okay, so you're saying the voice, an opportunity to voice our concern.
Yeah.
JR.
Yeah, so my point that I'm trying to underscore here is that the courts are giving HCD more power than this piece of legislation gives them. So I don't see what an opposition stance gets us in this particular milieu. If the point is that we want clarity, if the point is that we want to ensure that we still have some sort of say, then I think this bill strikes a much better balance than where the courts are at the present. At present, they are deferring to HCD on everything, including the determination that cities are not compliant until HCD says they are compliant. This bill displaces that in its entirety.
Thank you, Chair. I'm the last one on the committee, then I'll take public comment, then we'll do motion and vote. I agree, this is going in the wrong direction, JR. I hear you respectfully. I disagree on this because it's the lack of local control and giving our voice, sending our voice to the legislators that this is impacting the cities rather than, and also I think some of the persons who have been helping us, case in point, Senator Becker, who has been trying to help us to work with HCD. If we ask them for help and they try to do something for us, if we are not willing to stand by the fact that HCD is not doing anything, and we kind of agree with this, that's my reason for basically opposing this bill, exactly the position that Cal Cities has taken. Okay, very quickly, public comment, if we can keep it very brief, that's my request. So President Nisa can start her next meeting in time if we wrap up here fast. Okay, closing public comment, bringing it back to the committee. I can see there are going to be two separate motions. The count I'm looking is going to be very close. Who wants to go first, JR or Javed?
Go ahead, JR.
JR, do you want to make your motion?
I'll make a motion that we support the bill if amended to remove the provisions regarding the builder's remedy.
I'm sorry, can we repeat the motion because I was helping someone?
Okay, JR's motion is to recommend to the board. JR, go ahead, beyond that.
That we support AB 1886 if amended to remove all provisions related to the builder's remedy.
Okay, let me see if I captured that correctly. Motion to recommend to the board that we support AB 1886 if amended to remove, I'm sorry, how did you phrase that?
To remove all provisions related to the builder's remedy.
Okay, got it.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Sorry, who-
Alyssa Sunnyvale.
okay.
And is there another motion?
I guess it'd be a motion, would it be an amended to the motion or a separate motion?
It could be either, it's your call.
Yeah, so my motion would be to totally oppose the bill and call on the legislature to legislate where additional restrictions are placed on the HCD.
Second.
I think that's a substitute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So call on the can you repeat that so she can?
Call on the legislature to place remedies, place restrictions on HCD so it moves forward with certifying housing elements timely.
Call on the legislature to restrict HCD.
So
Okay,
it certifies housing elements in a timely manner.
so I'm gonna have to listen to the recording again to get the exact wording. So
Yeah, Javed, motion is to recommend to the board to oppose this bill.
no, I got it. I got it. I will go back and
Okay, 6:50 PM. And I believe Kathy seconded, is that?
No, I had it.
Oh, Carmen was the one who seconded the motion. Okay, since this is the second motion, I'm going to call, is there a third motion? Or do we move and vote on this in the interest of time and then come back to the first motion? Okay. Shally, can we have a vote on Javed's motion first?
okay. So the on the substitute motion.
Correct, which is to oppose the bill.
Okay. I'm gonna call by cities.
Please.
Campbell,
Abstain.
okay. Cupertino,
No.
Los Altos,
No, Los Altos is not in the meeting.
No, I'm here.
they're here.
No,
We're not
Pete,
gonna take a position.
Pete, we can't take you because your location is not on the agenda. You're
I
one-
understand, but, yes, fine.
So you're a member of the public. I already took public comment. I'm sorry to say that, Pete. I
Well,
got
I
typical attorneys
thought I could
correct.
participate under 1847 or whatever, maybe 1847. It's a medical issue that prevents me from being there right now.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
So
Yes, please. Can we continue the vote, Shally?
okay, but Los Altos can vote then, correct?
I'm going to defer to the president of the board who's sitting here.
Oh, so it depends. If Vice Mayor Daley wants to appear, I think it's under 1446 where he had an emergency, but he can. He has to make his statement and then you guys vote to see if you accept it. Remember, if it's a public, if he's on business or medical reason, he can appear this way.
Okay.
So I don't know if he wants to make the case.
Thank you.
So this is the first time I've done this, so forgive my awkwardness, but yes, I have an emergency medical situation that came up that prevented me from being there in person, so I would like to participate under 1846.
Somebody make a motion?
So I would move to allow him to participate for that reason.
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Who was
I'm
the
sorry.
second? Rob Moore was second. Javed made the motion. Rob Moore was second. Can you vote on this first, please?
Do a show of hands?
Yeah. Motion to allow Vice Mayor Pete Daley from Los Altos to participate in the meeting under the guidance of AB 1846 by Elahi, second by Moore. Campbell,
Does he need to state if there's someone over 18 in the room with him?
That's after you approve it.
Okay, aye.
Cupertino,
Yes.
Los Altos. Well, I guess he can't vote. Huh? Okay, sorry. Los Altos Hills,
Yes.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Monte Sereno,
Yes.
Morgan Hill,
Yes.
Mountain View,
Yes.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Yes.
Sunnyvale.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now, what else do we need to check?
I have a clarification on the voting, when we have a chance.
Yeah.
So when I vote, so I'm supporting, I'm opposing, I'm supporting.
No, we have suspended that. Right now, we are voting to allow Pete to
Oh, yeah.
vote.
No, we did that.
So, no, we haven't finished that.
Okay.
We haven't finished that. Sergio has, I am not familiar with the rules, so I'm taking help.
I think he needs to state if there's anyone over the age of 18 present in the room with him.
There is nobody else in the room with me.
Thank you, Pete. Do I need to ask anything else? I'll just, in the interest of time, Nisa? No.
No.
Okay, are we done with that, Nisa? Okay.
Yeah.
So Shelley, now we go back to voting on AB 1886. You were at Los Altos.
That's what I wanted to ask, a clarifying question.
Okay, hold on, Shelley. Clarification, Carmen.
So the clarifying, so I want to vote against, one of the Senate bill that was just yours, but would I be voting yes or no?
He's saying oppose the bill, and your motion was seconding the bill, that is, seconding his motion to oppose the bill.
Right.
That's what
So
you
I
did.
would vote yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to
Correct.
make sure.
Okay.
And you can vote twice.
Oh, Javed. Shelley, Lisa, my apologies.
Chair
Meeting is running
Walia?
late.
Chair Walia, I need to clarify something because the substitute motion was to call on the legislature to restrict HCD, but it wasn't necessarily to oppose AB 1886.
It started with opposing Bill 1886 and to call on the legislator to place restriction on HCD so it certifies housing elements in a timely manner.
Okay,
Okay, so Los Altos, vote from Los Altos. That's where you were, Shelley.
so Los Altos,
We're not taking a position on this bill.
is that abstain?
Yes, abstain.
Los Altos Hills,
Yes.
Los Gatos,
No.
Milpitas,
Yes to oppose.
Monte Sereno,
Yes.
Morgan Hill,
Yes.
Mountain View,
No.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Yes,
Sunnyvale.
No.
Okay, with 1, 4, 5, 6. We have,
yeah, please go ahead.
okay, so I'm assuming the motion passes because we have 6 yes and 4 no's. We don't need a majority of the board, right? It doesn't have to be 8.
No, you have 4 no's. I want to make sure. And you have 2 abstentions. Campbell and Los
Okay.
Altos
Right.
abstained. So 2 abstentions. And how many yes? Los Altos Hills?
They're 12 and 1.
6 yes.
6 yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
6 yes,
Yes.
4 no's, 2
Or no.
Okay, so it passes. Okay. So we do not vote on the first motion that was made. Okay, just to make it clear to everyone, and we have members of the next meeting who are already here. Okay, with that, I'm going to quickly open up, which I have to. We are at the end of the agenda, public comment on non-agendized items. Do we have any member of the public virtually who wants to speak on non-agendized items still in the last meeting?
No, Chair Walia.
No? Anyone in the room? No, I close public comment period. And with that, a very big thank you to each one of you. And I adjourn the meeting at 6:58 PM. Thank you all.
Too bad we didn't get to the one about